Cult Cinema Podcast.
Will somebody get you to the Happy Meal?
If OJ can get away with murder, why can't Sonny have his kid?
All right. Hello and welcome everybody back to another episode of the Cult Cinema Podcast. I am Gage.
I'm Ashley.
And I apologize if we sound a little different this episode. I just woke up from a nap and actually I'm a little stuffy myself, and Ashley here has been a little under the weather for the past few days too, it sounds like.
COVID finally ran through this household.
It was, as you said, it was inevitable, unfortunately. Seems like everybody's getting it, or everybody's knowing somebody who currently has it, or multiple people who have it. But, so, be safe, everybody. This thing is probably not going away as quickly as we wanted it to. So.
No. And wear your mask.
Yeah.
Just wear it. It's not a big deal.
It's really not. It's not. Yeah. So that we'll just put it at that. All right. Well, today, if you haven't checked the title, we are doing Big Daddy, which came out in
1999.
1999. I don't have my iPad for my notes. All right. Pause. BRB. All right. Released in 1999. This film directed by Dennis Dugan. He's directed a lot of films that Sandler has produced over the past few years.
Cool.
But yeah, so I am ready to get into the scene by scene if you are ready. And we can go from there.
I am.
Cool.
So we open with Sonny, who is Adam Sandler, and he is answering the phone in the middle of the afternoon. And it's his dad, and he lies to him about sleeping because it is, late in the afternoon. And he tells him that he's lazy, basically, and he can't just live off the money he won from the car accident. And the dynamic between his dad initially is obviously like, my son's a bum and I hate him. We then see his girlfriend pop up next to him. Her name's Vanessa, and she is, what's her name? Christy something. She's Buffy also.
Oh, wait.
There's any
Is she?
Not Sarah Michelle Gellar era
Okay.
Buffy. She was the original Buffy.
Okay.
She was the movie Buffy, and I forget her name. It's Christy Swanson or something like that.
Okay.
But she is Adam Sandler's girlfriend, and she is pissed because he turned the clock off again. And she basically explains to him that she's going to go to her mom's for the weekend and think about their relationship, and she also tells him to get a real job. And he says, I have a job. And we cut to him at a toll booth, and that's his job, which is a real job, but
Yeah.
he only works...
Only one day a week.
One
Yeah.
day a week, right?
But I mean,
So-
hey, if I got a bunch of money from an insurance policy and I only had to work one day a week, I'd probably be doing the same thing.
Yeah, and I have a roommate, and clearly I'm paying the bills. Or maybe the roommate's paying most of the bills. We don't know his situation there.
Probably, considering how big their apartment space is in New York.
In New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I did do some money facts on this just to see. And back in the 90s, they could have had a converted style industrial building. Those were really popular in the late 90s, early 2000s. And initially, they were basically like slum places. The landlords or the people who would buy these places would not upkeep them, would not do anything with them. So they were dirt cheap for the most part. You were basically paying for the square footage, and it was not expensive initially. Now, of course, you see a place like that in New York, I'm sure you're in the thousands of dollars.
Right.
But
100%.
just a little side note. So he actually pawns a ride off a guy at this toll booth to get home. So he doesn't drive either. Or spends money on a cab or a bus, maybe. So, he's also not spending a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, but then we cut to his house, and he gets home, and we see a huge surprise party. And unfortunately, it is not for Sonny. And it is actually for his roommate, Kevin. And his girlfriend, Corinne, has thrown this party, and she's pissed because it's not Kevin. And unfortunately, he doesn't shut the door behind him. So then Kevin kind of wanders up and no one notices him at first. So the surprise is ruined on Sunny, and Corinne pretty much freaks out, locks herself in the bathroom. We see Sunny and two of his friends talking about lawyer stuff. In this movie, all of his friends are lawyers. Mm-hmm. And
we find out that Sunny was he did go to law school, and he does know a lot about, and he does, like, there's an interaction between him and I think it's his friend, not Tommy, was it Phil is the other one?
Maybe, yeah.
I
forget their
short-haired
names.
one, yeah.
The homosexual couple that's also his friends.
Yeah.
I forget both of their names, honestly.
I think it's Tommy and Phil. I think
Okay.
Phil is the one with the shorter hair. That's, but yeah, Phil is struggling with some case that he's currently working, and Sonny gives him some pretty decent advice. So we know that Sonny is competent.
Yeah.
To some, like, he could,
And he passed the bar.
yeah. But
So he could be a lawyer,
sure, absolutely.
but he's chosen not to.
Because he doesn't have to. He just wants to live that bum life and just hang
Right.
out and watch hockey all day.
Right.
No coincidence that I'm wearing a hockey sweater.
That's funny. I didn't even notice. So, like you said, let's say Phil. Let's say his name's Phil. Mm. He thanks Sonny for the advice. He's going to head back to the office. The two men kiss, and another friend that's sitting there is like, man, that still makes me uncomfortable. And Sonny's like, what? That's what gay guys do. They kiss. Like, no big deal. We then see Corinne's sister, who is, again, Gage's high school crush. Lauren Adams.
I was going to say, I'm blanking on her name for some reason, though.
Joey Lauren Adams, and she's Layla, one of my favorite names ever. And her and Kevin are trying to coax her out of the bathroom because she's still upset about, all that stuff. And
Kevin is played by Jon Stewart, by the way, which I think this is the only movie that I've ever seen him in. I'm sure he's been in a couple more, but I only ever seen him from The Daily Show otherwise.
This is probably one of his biggest roles in a movie. Yeah, I agree.
Which is funny because he's barely even in it. But I guess they just got him because he was kind of popular at the time. Like, The Daily Show was really starting to take off, I think. And because he's not, like, his acting in this film it's not nothing special, but I think it's fine for the minimal screen time that this character gets and development that this character gets.
He was also in The Faculty in a minor role, which is like the same year or the year before. I forget when The Faculty came out, but he's good in that too. Like, it's also a minor role, but he's funny. He delivers his lines really well. So
Sandler,
not a bad actor.
Sandler, I believe, actually wanted Rob Schneider to play Jon Stewart's character initially for this movie, but this was, I guess, at a time before Sandler had a ton of creative control over the movies that he was doing. It wasn't just like, everything kind of after this, where he was pretty much like the main guy, like doing stuff like Grown Ups, pretty much any other Happy Madison movie that you've seen after this.
Right.
But he was, really good friends with Rob Schneider, and he wanted Rob Schneider to be in this movie in one way or another. And so there was the delivery guy, Nazo, who we are introduced later, and that's who Schneider ends up playing. And I'll get into a little bit more into that role in a little bit, but I think it would have been interesting. I think Jon Stewart is a good pick for this character compared to Rob Schneider, but I don't know. Maybe it's just because what we get out of Rob Schneider from this movie is completely different than Jon Stewart's character.
Right. And his role is definitely bigger.
Yeah.
So Corinne and Kevin, Layla and Kevin are trying to coax Corinne out of the bathroom. And we kind of are cutting back and forth between that occurrence and then Sonny talking to one of his friends. And they're kind of making fun of Corinne and Kevin's relationship. And as soon as Sonny says something like, I forget the exact term he used, but he's like, I give it 3 more weeks and she's out. Like, they're not compatible. But then we immediately cut to Kevin making a funny speech, and he proposes to Corinne. And Right in the middle of his little speech, Sonny interrupts again and yells, "You're not proposing, are you?" And Kevin's like, "Well, I am, but now you've ruined that too." So Sonny's just...
He's not on a
guy.
great streak right now. All right, he's having a rough time. He's having relationship issues. He's about to lose his best friend to his fiance. Mm-hmm. He might actually have to go get a real job now.
Right, because he won't have a roommate any longer. Obviously, they'll move in together. So we then cut to Sonny and Kevin on their roof, and they're golfing. So there's a hole in their roof, 1. 2, they're using it to hit golf balls into. Cool. And they're basically just like, nothing's going to change. I'm still going to be your friend. And Sonny's like, "You're really going to marry that Big Booze McGee?" And this is when we bring in the Hooters thing. She did work at Hooters before she graduated medical school. So it's not like she's an idiot.
Yeah.
By any means.
But that's the one thing that, for some reason, Sonny feels that he has one up on her, is the fact that she, was a struggling young waitress making her way in the world, trying to get a medical degree, and just happened to be working at Hooters.
This is the only thing I have an issue with in this movie, because I don't appreciate the misogyny he's showing Corinne.
It was the 90s, man. It was okay to be a total piece of shit back then, all right?
Just saying. I don't like it.
There must be some kind of personal connection that Sandler has to that restaurant in one way or another that I didn't take the effort to really look into that much, but...
No, me neither. So him and Kevin are joking back and forth, putting away, talking about stuff. And then Sonny eventually does congratulate him, so he's not a total ass. And he also mentions that Vanessa's probably going to break up with him, and just how his life kind of sucks right now. And he says to Kevin, "If I make this putt, Vanessa will realize that she loves me the way I am and I don't have to change a thing." And he does, but then a huge rat pops out with the ball. And it's gross.
New York, baby. It's dirty.
Yep, rats everywhere. So we're back to his apartment the next morning, or afternoon. We're not sure. Corinne is cleaning up from the party. They, again, kind of go back and forth at each other because he's just mean to her the whole movie for the most part. And the doorbell rings, and there's a small boy sitting there with a note. Sonny reads it and immediately calls Kevin because it explains something about Kevin on the note. Kevin's about to board his plane, and he cannot believe what Sonny's saying, essentially. Like, this can't be happening. It's not true. And he's like, "No, dude, I'm, like, looking at this kid. He's here." And Corinne pops out and asks who this kid is. And, of course, Sonny doesn't want to open his mouth and say, "Oh, it's Kevin's." So he tries to play it off a little better and tactfully than the scenes we've seen before. And Sonny does say, "No, this is my friend. And this is my Uncle Remus on the phone. Leave me alone." And he kind of goes back to the phone call with Kevin. And the note says if Kevin won't take him, there is a foster family that will, so call Children's Services and they'll take care of it that way. Kevin initially is like, "Look, I'm just going to come home." And he's like, No. Sonny offers to take care of it, which is odd in my opinion, just because he doesn't seem like the kind of guy who would do anything, let alone deal with this child being dropped off at your door.
Yeah, up until then, he's taken, like, no real responsibility. Granted, this is still kind of early in the film. But, yeah, it does seem kind of off character for him to all of a sudden just take on this responsibility of taking care of this kid briefly. But
right, for sure. So he does end up calling Children's Services, but they're closed. It's Columbus Day. So he tells Julian, who is the child, obviously, that he'll have to wait with him one more day until they can sort all this out. And we kind of cut to them walking along the street together. And he asks Julian if he needs formula or something. And he says no. And Sonny says, "Well, what do you eat?" And Julian says, "Food." I'm not a baby. Which is so cute.
Yeah. It's that young age where they're like kind of being a smartass, but they don't really know that they're being a smartass. And so it's
right, because kids are blunt.
Yeah.
Because they don't know any better.
Right.
But that's hilarious to me.
Julian is played by both Dylan and Cole Sprouse, back when you literally could not tell them apart.
No.
I mean, they still look very similar, but if you saw them, you could still point out which one is which.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah.
Well, and child labor laws prevent one child from working so many hours a day, so you have to hire twins for the most part, unless you have different children. And then that's a whole different set of rules. But anyway, yes, they're twins. They both play Julian in this movie. Sonny goes across the street, and Julian stops, and he makes Sonny hold his hand, which is so cute. Sonny tells him on his days off, I like to go to the park and watch rollerbladers fall down. So we see them at the park, and Julian's kind of sitting on this really large rock, and sure enough, there's rollerbladers coming down this really steep and windy hill, pretty fast too. And there are decent odds they'll fall, so I guess that's what they do with their day. Or Sonny does with his day.
Sounds
they
about
kind
right.
of, yeah, right. They, Sonny and Julian kind of start talking back and forth, and he asks Julian how old he is, and Julian says, I'm 5. Sonny asks him if he wears a diaper, and he says, no, I wipe my own ass. Which is awesome. Sonny then nobody's falling during this whole conversation. We're seeing none of the rollerbladers fall. So Sonny puts a huge stick right in the way of the roller skaters to make them fall. And the very next guy goes down hard into that lake. And I'm surprised he didn't, break something.
Yeah. And, of course, Julian starts laughing, which will then foreshadow that the only way to really make Julian happy when he's upset is to just hurt yourself in front of the kid in one way or another.
Or hurt something.
Or hurt someone. As long as someone is in pain, Julian is happy, so... Psychopathic undertones much?
I think that's pretty normal for 5-year-old boys, honestly. If they're not constantly beating each other up, they're rowdy anyway.
We all watch those epic fail compilations on YouTube. We all find it funny when people get hurt.
Right. It's normal. We cut back to Sonny's apartment with Julian and the delivery guy, who is Rob Schneider. And they're all watching Columbo, which I thought was cute.
So I actually have a fun fact about that. The episode of Columbo that they're watching is one that director Dennis Dugan actually had a supporting role in, playing Sergeant Theodore Mac Albinski in that episode. So
cool. Way to pull that in.
Yeah.
That is an obscure fact.
I really had to dig for that because I saw I was doing some minor research for this episode, and I saw hints of why that episode of Columbo was, and I eventually found it, I think, on some website, and then I confirmed it on IMDb or something. But
so they're just watching TV, all 3 of them, and then Sonny tells, what's his name?
Nazo, I think, the delivery guy.
Nazo, okay.
Yeah.
Yep. I didn't put his name down, but
I think it's only mentioned once or twice, and it's really soft. I think most of the time he's credited as just the delivery guy. So
fair enough. I'll say Rob Schneider.
Sure.
Because we all know who he is. Hopefully, everyone out there knows. He tells him that we're going to go to the bar and watch Monday Night Football, and does he want to come? And he says, no, I have more deliveries, and you probably shouldn't take a child to a bar, but fine. But they do go to the bar. And a pretty girl comes over to ask him what he's doing there. And fun fact early, also, that's Adam Sandler's wife.
They actually met on the set of this movie, Jackie Sandler.
They did.
Which was fun.
She has a cameo in, I think, every single one of his films past this one. So the waitress comes over, talks to Julian for a minute. Sonny then is like, hey, you could get any girl you want. You're cute, blah, blah, blah. And Sonny talks to him some more about coming here after he graduated law school every Monday night with his friends to watch football. But now everybody's too busy, so nobody comes anymore. Then we see this old man at the bar, and he starts messing with Sonny. And Sonny and him have this, funny back and forth where they're fucking with each other, basically. That's the only way to describe it. We're then back at home with Sonny and Julian, and it's 2 a.m. in the morning, and it's like, Jesus, yeah, you can't keep that kid up that late. He tells Julian to go to bed, and Julian asks for a nightlight, And maybe the only thing he has, or just what he had quickly, is a neon sign that when he plugs it in says live nudes.
That's pretty good. That's very like,
yeah.
That's very bachelor pad type shit that you would have just laying around.
Neon signs are expensive and heavy, so I don't know why he's got one, but whatever. We're then back next day in the park with his couple, that's his friends as well, and Sonny and Julian are kind of playing. His friends are like freaking out though. They're like, you cannot take care of this kid, you know. And his one friend's like, you know, remember that time you wanted a puppy and then you basically almost killed the puppy? Like, this is a puppy, but it's a human. Like, you have to take care of it.
I like how the whole conversation starts off with Sonny just saying, you know, I'm thinking about keeping the kid, like it is a dog or something.
Exactly. Not good. Sonny says, well, I need to do something huge with my life or Vanessa's going to leave me. And his friend is like, okay, so you know how sometimes women get pregnant to keep their relationship? You can't adopt a child to do the same thing. That's not going to work.
Yeah, which is...
And Sonny's like, go ahead.
And he's like basically a lawyer too. Like, he went to law school. Like, he knows that this is not going to fly, yet he does it anyway.
Yeah. And that's exactly what he says next. He's like, you know what? I didn't think of it that way, but now that you said that, let me borrow your cell phone. And he immediately calls Children's Services, lies and says he's Kevin, and that he's going to keep Julian. So that's also illegal. Super illegal. Mm-hmm. But just as Sonny gets off the phone with the social worker, Julian trips a rollerblader in the street with a stick, and everyone laughs. So... just, you know,
way to teach him
pushing
young.
That behavior. Yeah, pushing that behavior onto that child. We then cut to the next morning, and Sonny is woken up by Julian, who has wet his bed, which is pretty normal not for a 5-year-old, but definitely for a kid who's going through such a drastic change.
Sure.
And I always feel so bad for him when I see his poor little face. He looks so sad.
Yeah.
Sonny goes over to his bed, and it is a really big pee stain, though, too. So, obviously, that kid couldn't lay in it. Mm. But at this point, you need to replace that mattress, not put newspaper down, which is exactly what he does.
Again, treating him like he is just a puppy.
Right. And he tells him to lay back down and go back to sleep. And Julian does lay down, but he's rolling all around because once kids are up, they're up.
Yeah.
You know, if you have a kid out there, you know exactly what I mean. So... unfortunately, Sonny gets up as well because he can't go back to sleep either at this point. He does tell him, though, that at this point, we're up early, we can go to McDonald's. So get your stuff. And then this is when he trips over Scuba Steve, and that makes Julian laugh, too. So, again, Sonny now relays pain with making the kid happy. So he does this quite often throughout the movie. We see them... getting ready to go to McDonald's. Julian tries to tie his shoes, but Sonny ends up doing it for him and tries to teach him a little bit of how you do it, which is cute. They start walking to McDonald's, and Julian says he has to pee again, now. Mm-hmm. Adam Sandler tries to get into a restaurant, but the dude working there is like, you know, it's for customers only, fuck you, I don't care if your kid needs to pee.
Have you ever run into a situation where, like, you have been denied access to a restroom of, like, restaurant or something because you're not a paying customer?
Oh, yeah, it happens all the time.
Really?
Yeah, it still does.
I don't think that's ever been the case. Pretty much any place because usually the bathrooms aren't too close from the entrance itself. So usually if I have to stop and take a leak real quick, I just go straight to the bathroom and no one's the wiser. So. In,
like, smaller establishments like this... because it didn't look to me to be like a sort of like a chain maybe restaurant. Mm-hmm. It looked like probably a mom and pop type restaurant or a one owner restaurant. A lot of those will not let you use the restroom.
Yeah.
So. But anyway, it doesn't matter because Sonny then shows Julian how to pee on the building. So it doesn't matter. Yep. But it is getting close to 11 a.m. and that's when Sonny thinks breakfast is going to stop at McDonald's. So they kind of start running, and right before they get to McDonald's, Julian sees a person experiencing homelessness and starts asking him all these questions about why he's there. The guy is kind of rambling on. This is another Adam Sandler friend, Steve Buscemi. He's in pretty much every other movie as well.
Yeah.
That Adam Sandler's directed. Sonny basically offers him food to shut up, and he immediately falls asleep. So they arrive to McDonald's, but it is too late for breakfast because breakfast is now stopping at 10:30, not 11, as Sonny thought, and he yells initially, which makes Julian start crying, and then he tries to calm him down and, comfort him, and some guy is like, great parenting, and he grabs his fries and throws them, and he says, take a walk, which is so funny. And then this is when we get a very famous line, somebody get this kid a Happy Meal.
Somebody get this kid a Happy Meal?
Yep. And we see Sonny and Julian leave. They see Buscemi's character again on the side of the road, and he was like, where's my Egg McMuffin? And Sonny goes, they stopped serving at 10:30. How was I supposed to know? And Julian's still kind of crying as well.
Is it still 10:30? Because I know that they have their all-day breakfast now, but I know that there are still only certain items that you can get if you get it before. Is it still 10:30? I don't know. I haven't had it.
I think so. And a lot of McDonald's stopped doing all-day breakfast when COVID started because of staffing. So I don't actually know any that does that anymore.
Interesting.
But I think 10:30 is still right, yeah. Speaking of which, I'm going to go to McDonald's tomorrow.
Now that you got it fresh in the mind. That's like the same way when
I know.
anybody ever brings up like Cane's chicken fingers. It's like, all right, well, I guess now I know what I'm having for dinner tonight. It's just anytime I hear the word.
We can't eat Cane's here because Cane's is on Stringtown Road, which is really busy, and there's constantly a line wrapped around that building.
Yeah. I go to the one over by me that's off of Olentangy, and it's like very few days out of the week that it's not a whole line that's, wrapped completely around the building and then out to and almost out to Ackerman. So it's nuts.
I don't get it. It's good food, but it's not that good. I'm not waiting in line for like 15 minutes to get chicken fingers.
Oh, I definitely will. On a consistent basis. No. Even if it's I'm getting off of work and the one thing on my mind is Cane's chicken fingers. You damn straight I'm going to sit in that line for 15 to 20 minutes to get my chicken fingers.
All right. Well, good for you.
Just listen to my podcast
I'm not that
and
person.
just hang out.
I'm going to drive on by. The police here actually there's a sign by the Canes that says, if you are parked on Stringtown Road to enter this establishment, you will be fined.
That's insane.
Because they would block traffic down Stringtown Road to the freeway almost sometimes for these fucking people that would just wait. Yeah. It was insane.
Is Cane's primarily, not to go off of too much of a tangent talking about Cane's, but is it primarily like just like a Midwest thing? Like, do they have it over on the West Coast?
I don't think so, but I'm not sure. I think they're Midwest to Southern, because I know there's definitely Cane's in Tennessee. Okay. But, yeah. For all you listeners out there, Cane's chicken.
Look at Cane's. The sauce is the shit. It's all in the sauce.
The sauce is good.
The sauce is good.
Yeah, the sauce is good.
Anyway, back to this movie we're talking about.
Right. Back to this. So Sonny and Julian arrive back to their apartment after their failed trip to McDonald's breakfast. And Sonny's trying to watch a hockey game, but Julian is just bouncing off the walls because he's bored, I'm sure, and has nothing to do. He tells him to go take a nap, and Julian tells him he's too hungry to sleep. Then we immediately cut to a table with food everywhere. He has eaten pretty much everything in this apartment, I would guess. And Julian is passed out on the table. Sonny says having a kid is great when they're not talking and their eyes are closed, which, yeah, it's just like that. That's why I have no children, by choice. Hard pass. He goes to eat some chips and cheer for a score on the hockey game quietly, because he obviously doesn't want to wake up Julian. But too late, Julian is awake. He is handing Sonny a video that he got out of his bag, and he wants him to watch the Kangaroo song. He says, I always watch this after my nap. And they kind of go back and forth. He's like, I want to watch hockey. Kangaroo song. Well, give me a minute. Kangaroo song. So, obviously, Julian ends up winning. They put the tape in, and Julian hops around And Sunny is kind of annoyed by the video, which, dude, same.
This is kind of this is kind of how my little sister is. Whenever she wakes up from her nap and she's going to be playing around in the living room, there is no debate. You watch what she wants to watch.
Yep. And that's exactly what's happening here. But Julian stops all of a sudden and pukes all over the floor. And Sunny puts more newspaper down on it because that's the solution to everything. Mm-hmm. He says, oh, well, let's get ready to go see Vanessa. Maybe she'll know what to do with you. And I need help, basically.
Yes, this is the perfect way to mend your relationship with your girlfriend is, kidnap a child and then put the responsibility on her.
Exactly. Because she's the woman, so of course that's what should be happening.
Right.
We then see them walking, and Julian kind of stops and says, what if she doesn't like me? And he's kind of nervous about meeting her. Sunny then tells him, look, you can put on these magical sunglasses, and no one can see you until you want them to. They get to Vanessa's, and she's clearly shocked at the fact that he has a child.
Yeah.
And Julian is waiting in the hallway. So Sunny initially says, if anyone out here wants to come in, we'll leave the door open. And he waits in the hallway for a second. Eventually, Julian does make his way in, and Sunny tells Vanessa, he likes you. He's taken the sunglasses off. He's in the house. And she's, again, still just, completely taken off guard. Just then, though, Sunny hears a noise in the bathroom. He asks her if anyone's here, and she says no, which is clearly a lie. He walks over to the bathroom and starts pounding on the door. And as soon as he starts to get upset, this older gentleman walks out. And he initially, I think he thinks it's her dad, right?
That or not what they end up actually being, which is Vanessa cheating on Sunny with this guy, Sid.
Right. So that is what's happening. And he flips out, yells at her. Julian starts crying. They immediately leave. And Sunny goes directly to Children's Services to try to get rid of him at this point. The social worker, whose name is Mr. Brooks, tells him, look, his mother died this morning, so he can't go back there, which is sad. And Julian probably has no idea. And I don't think anyone ever tells him that.
Yeah.
Let's hope they do later.
I would assume they have because because the way that the rest of the tone throughout the film is very upbeat, and even when we see Sunny eventually call his dad for advice, he kind of has the kid go away so that he can explain everything to his dad. But I would assume later that we'll get into the court case that happens and everything, I would assume that they would have had to explain everything to him at that point.
Yeah. So clearly that's why the mom dropped him off, though, because she had cancer and she unfortunately has passed. Mr. Brooks says, look, they'll take him, but you're going to have to wait for a little bit. We can put him in a group home if you really don't want him there. But Sunny doesn't think that's a good idea. So he's like, look, just keep him for a couple days. Sunny agrees. And then when I find a foster home, when Mr. Brooks finds a foster family for him again, we'll let you know and we'll take Julian.
What happened to this foster home that was supposedly already set up for him in that note in the beginning? Because it says that there was a foster home already set up for him.
It does, but if he has agreed to take the child, we don't know how many days have passed.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
It could have been 2 weeks for all we know.
Okay,
and
that makes sense.
I don't know. But then, yes, you'd be put on another wait list, depending, and it's New York, so their foster system, I'm sure, even in the 90s, was completely overrun. Mr. Brooks does say, though, that, look, this is against policy, so just keep it on the down low, keep the kids safe, and I'll call you when we find a family. So Sunny and Julian end up leaving, and again, holding hands crossing the street. Too cute. He tells Julian he's got to make a phone call, and this is when he calls his dad. His dad literally freaks out when he tells him he's adopted a child.
Yeah.
And he tells him to return the kid. And Sunny obviously is like, I can't, the mom died, and I just need help. And instead of helping, Sunny and him scream at each other, and he ends up smashing the payphone, hanging up on him.
I mean, I don't know what Sunny would have expected otherwise. I mean, he called it, the last conversation he had with his dad that we hear in the beginning is how he's a bum and how he doesn't take on responsibility.
Right. How did you think that was going to go?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Like you kind of want to. I think the film tries to make you feel bad for Sonny with the situation that he's in.
It does.
But at the
Yeah.
at the time when I first watched this, which was around the time that Julian was, when I first saw this movie, 5 years old, I did feel bad for Sonny. But now watching this as an adult, Sonny is kind of a piece of shit who kind of deserves all the shit that he gets in this movie.
Yeah.
So.
This is a common Adam Sandler trope.
Yeah.
So in pretty much all of his movies, his character does things, that you are conflicted about. So you know he's a piece of shit to an extent, but you also kind of feel bad for him. And then there's always a happy ending. It turns, and he becomes a good guy. So this is no exception.
He's kind of like any Bill Murray character, but like not as funny.
Yeah.
That's my take on Adam Sandler in the early 90s, mid 2000s.
I like
Or
his
late 90s.
movies. I think a lot of, especially now that he's gotten older and has kids of his own, probably they're a little more family friendly movies.
Yeah. I mean, I do respect what Adam Sandler has been doing, where most of his films are kind of just been him and his buddies getting together and just making a movie. But in my personal opinion, Uncut Gems was the first good movie that he had come out with in 15 years.
I refuse to watch it.
Really?
Because I think
It's good. It's really good.
I don't think I like Adam Sandler trying to be serious, and I didn't want to ruin that in my brain.
Well,
if it was bad.
It's like there's still very much Adam Sandler in the character, and there's a lot of comedy in the character. So it's not like he's not all brooding and serious. There is still a high comedic element to the character. So
All right.
I
Well,
would
maybe I'll eventually watch it. All right. Well, I'm not doing much this weekend. Maybe I'll watch it.
There you go.
Yeah. So, all right. We have talked to his dad. Sonny then tells Julian, which Julian's obviously too young to understand, but he's like, look, I don't want to put you in this box. I don't want to be that kind of a dad. So you make your decisions. You're old enough to know what you want. And he's, he also says at this point, Julian, that's your name. Do you even want to be called that? And he says, no, I want to be called Frankenstein.
Very progressive movie.
Yeah, so that's funny. And Sonny lets him play in a puddle, and he's like, from now on, we'll do whatever you want, and I'll just show you some cool shit along the way, and it'll be good. We then kind of have a montage of Sonny doing stuff with Julian together, Julian is picking his own outfits out, which are always crazy bonkers, obviously.
Because he's 5.
He's a kid.
Yeah.
Right. There's one outfit, obviously, famously, you see the twins in, it's a hat and then the pasta strainer on top of it.
Yeah.
Which is cute. Sonny gives him a slingshot and tells him to go shoot some beer cans or something. But then we immediately cut to Julian showing Sonny he shot like a fuckload of pigeons.
Kid's a crack shot. What can I say?
There's literally probably 50 pigeons on this roof.
Yeah.
It's insane.
But that's like the first instance of we get like Julian being grounded. I don't know. He says like he sees all the dead birds. He's like, go to your room or somewhere. I don't know. Do whatever you want.
Do whatever you want.
just
don't stay here. Yeah. We then see Julian trick-or-treating in his kangaroo suit. That looks homemade.
It does.
By the way.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
No. It's really good. And if he made that, adorable.
Yeah.
It's even got oven mitts.
It does.
As, like,
or
the
he's got
hands.
boxing gloves.
Oh, yeah. Boxing gloves. So cute. It's such a cute costume. The first house they get to, though, the guy tries to blow him off, and Sonny breaks into his home and threatens this man, and he ends up giving Julian a bunch of crap.
He gives him like CDs, box of Life cereal, his watch.
Yeah.
I thought that scene was kind of funny.
It's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, it's very funny. We then cut to them at a park, and Julian runs up to a very pretty girl who, again, Joey Lauren Adams, is Layla. And he is basically like, I'm lost, I need help. And then Sonny runs up. This is a trope that he's doing. He's running up to a girl that Julian has been shown to go to and say he's lost. And then he proceeds to hit on her, which is cringy as well.
Yeah.
Don't use your children for anything personal gain. Just throwing that out there. You didn't have them for that reason.
No.
So Sunny asks her out. She basically refuses. Again, he whispers in Julian's ear, and then Julian begs her. So eventually she does go back to his apartment. They do kind of bond over pretty quickly, though, of their love of certain things like hockey and Sticks and Sticks the band.
The band,
Sorry.
not throwing sticks in front of,
right,
instead of rollerbladers.
Not wood. Wood, yeah. Sticks the band, who, by the way, is a good band. So a lot of people hate on Sticks.
It's one of those bands where I'm sure I've heard a dozen of their songs, but I can't think of a single one just hearing the band's
Mr.
name.
Roboto.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
That's a Sticks song.
Oh, yeah, they even mentioned that in the movie. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, they're a good band. Anyway, do with that as you will. But
yeah.
I'm not like a huge Sticks fan. I just think they're a good band. So, again, they kind of are talking back and forth. And then Sunny, unfortunately, plays a Sticks song a little too loud. And Julian gets up. Him and Layla go to his room and start telling him a bedtime story because he can't fall back to sleep right away. And at this point, Sunny tries to kind of work in her kissing him, but he gets shot down. And she kisses Scuba Steve instead. Good for you. We then cut to Monday morning. And, I forgot to mention this, but Frankenstein has asked to go to school. So Monday morning rolls around and they are at school. And he's nervous again, so Sunny gives him his sunglasses. And he says, I'll really miss him. I'll really miss you, but I'll be back at the end of the day to pick you up. You're going to do great. You'll make new friends. It'll be so much fun. So we then see him walk into the classroom, and he does talk to a boy pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. So, kids are kind of resilient at that age. So he's clearly bouncing back okay.
And it was around the time that I saw this movie that I was kind of in a similar situation myself. Not that I had, I was kidnapped by a man or anything like that, but in terms of like the whole being in a new school environment around this age, because the first school I went to, I was only there for kindergarten, but then I went to a different school for the first part of first grade, and then a couple months later we moved again to a different school. So I definitely understand because Julian or Frankenstein or whatever we want to call him now has this kind of like, oh, you're not going to be here with me. Like there is that, that kind of first day of school anxiety, being away from your parents or guardians for an entire day, forced to be in an environment that you are completely unfamiliar with. So
sure. I think kids do one of two things. They are like, yay, other people my size, clearly this is cool. Mm-hmm. Or they're freaking out and they don't want you to leave.
Right.
There's really no in between.
Yeah. I was the freaking out, not wanting the parents to leave kind of kid.
Yeah.
But luckily we are reassured as Julian goes into the classroom, and he very quickly engages in conversation with the other kids that are complimenting his very stylish outfit which is nice. So we are reassured by that.
Yeah. And it's a cute little scene with the kids, getting excited to be in school. Because again, at that age, it's probably a little exciting.
Yeah.
Doesn't last long.
No.
We then see Sunny arrive back home alone, and Mr. Brooks has called and left a message that they have found a family, so give him a call back, but he deletes it, which is mistake number 1, I think.
Yeah.
Not number 1. Number 4 or 5. Because obviously that guy's going to try to get a hold of you, so you should have called him back and said, never mind again, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Sunny then calls Layla, and they make plans to do laundry on her lunch break because she is also a lawyer. And
Everybody's
she is working.
a lawyer.
Yep, she's working crazy hours, and that's the only time she has time to do laundry. I will make a note here also, just to go off on another random tangent. I don't think any profession should require you to be there as much as that.
Agreed.
I've started a new job, and my direct manager, she was in at 6 today, and she didn't leave till 5. And that's like a normal day for her. And I'm like, dude, get out of here. You're doing all the work you need to be doing, clearly, or else you wouldn't be here. I'm just saying, don't do that to yourselves.
Right. I guess it also depends on your personal headspace and how you see your job and what it is that you're doing. Because if it's something that you're really enjoying, I mean, I don't know how much the average lawyer enjoys actually doing all that paperwork and everything.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and disrespect the grind. You know what I mean?
No, me neither. Because she clearly really loves her job. She's a great manager so far, obviously training me and stuff. And she does love her job. She talks about that pretty often. I'm just in the boat. Like, I can love my job, but I don't have to be here 60 hours a week.
Still important to give yourself that space where you can kind of decompress from everything.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you should be doing that. It's healthy. Anyway, they kind of have this cute back and forth in the laundromat, and she tells him that she read an article about how this is a really important age for kids, 5, 6, 7, because they, are trying to make friends, and they're trying to experience a different aspect of their lives besides parents. So he's like, well, hopefully I can stay his friend. So they kind of have this cute little montage of him and her going back and forth with not parenting advice, but it's similar.
Yeah.
She does, though, mention that hopefully he just stays away from all the drug dealers and delinquents. And you kind of see this look on Sonny's face that he's like, I was that kid.
Yeah.
Maybe I should go check on him. And that's what he does. He goes and checks on Julian. And he's pretty much like interrogating these children on the playground. Which they all look at him like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
He refers to getting wasted as, he says something about getting wasted, and the one kid goes, well, I like getting wasted on chocolate milk.
Yeah.
and
he's like, because they're all drinking Yoo-Hoo. And he's like, what's
Yoo-hoo,
good?
right.
Yoo-hoo with a little rum. And the one kid goes, Rumpelstiltskin?
Yep. Good for you, kid.
Yeah.
You don't know what it means.
Such innocence.
That's good. That's good. That's a good thing. When kids don't understand adult concepts as kids, the parents are doing something right. It's not about shielding. It's about, let them be kids.
Yeah.
You can treat them as adults as they get older, but let them be kids for a while. We then cut to Julian and Sonny at the store, and they're shopping, and they're smashing cans and denting cans because Sonny tells Julian that these would be half off because they're damaged.
Oh, because there's another thing that I picked up on is that with the money from the insurance settlement that Sonny got, he's using that and investing it in the stock market. So that's another way that he is making some money. And so there's a bit while they're in the grocery store is that, we have to save as much as we can. Microsoft went down 3 points. And so that's the callback that we get to that. And so, because as a kid, I was like, I don't know what that means. But now, again, it's one of those movies that I haven't seen in a while that I grew up with. But now watching it as an adult, I have a completely different perspective on a lot of the things that go down in this movie.
Right.
And a lot better understanding of things. So.
Yeah. True. Yes, that is mentioned as why they're throwing the cans. They do run into Corinne, though, at the store. And she helps Julian stop his arm from itching by putting some frozen peas on it. And at this point, Sonny says something like, oh, did you learn that at Hooters? And she's like, no, I learned it being a doctor, and this is common sense. The kid's itching. This is a good way to stop it. Cold. So she leaves, basically. We then see Sonny and Layla on a date, and his 2 buddies are watching, 3 of his friends, actually. So the homosexual couple and another friend are babysitting Julian. And at this point, Mr. Brooks stops by and wants to talk to Kevin. They assure him, They do assure him, though, that Kevin will call him. And they almost slip up and say Kevin's not here, but they, pretty quickly reel that back in.
Because Brooks asks where Kevin is. I think Tommy slips up and says that he's in China. But they're in on the whole thing. So Phil then interrupts and goes, he's in Chinatown. He's just away from everything at the moment. So
right.
But now we know that they're on the hunt for Sonny, and it's
for sure. So Layla and Sonny, though, seem to be having a good time on their date, and they do eventually kiss. But just then, Corinne interrupts them, and the way Sonny reacts to her interrupting them kissing versus how she, reacted to him ruining everything that she had planned is just hilarious in my mind.
Yeah.
We then cut to Julian's school, and his teacher is basically complaining to Sonny about him. Schoolwork and bathing are the two things. He's not doing well in school, and he smells like a foot.
And he's pissing in the plants in the classroom.
Yep.
Tripped over a kid who brought in rollerblades, and the kid broke his arm.
Oh, that's right.
He's just all over the
obviously,
place.
habits you shouldn't really be teaching your children.
Yeah.
And Sonny realizes that, and he promises to turn everything around. She says, well, they have a school play coming up, and he got Ben Franklin, which is an important role, so you really need to help him with this project. We then cut to Julian playing a video game instead of studying, and he kind of gets a little attitude about it, but then Sonny and the delivery guy, Rob Schneider, are like reading books and doing things, and that eventually gets Julian interested in what they're doing.
Yeah, this is where Sonny's parenting methods really come back to bite him in the ass in terms of the way that the kid, starts to develop an attitude, and this is something that I've definitely seen before with some family members, where you kind of let the kid do whatever, and they eventually expect that. And so when you actually start putting your foot down on certain things, they'll fight back. I mean, I was the same way when I was a teenager in certain things. Everybody was, but...
Yeah, we all go through it for sure.
Yeah.
But he's still playing this video game. So Sonny gets this idea, and this, in my opinion, is the best scene of the movie. You hear a knock at the door, and it's Sonny dressed up as Scuba Steve's dad. And he tells Julian that you gotta bathe and study hard, because that's what you could get on the scuba squad if you do that. And Julian is like, I want to be on the scuba squad. So this is a cute turn of... I've seen different things used in this way from parents too. So
this is actually also based on a real event from Adam Sandler's life. When he was a kid, he had a Diver Dan doll that he was really fond of, and he eventually, at one way or another, he lost it. And so Sandler's dad came dressed as Diver Dan's father and basically said, hey, thanks for taking care of my boy, he's with me now, kind of thing, to help cheer him up after losing his Diver Dan doll. So they implemented that whole thing into the movie, which I think is really nice.
That is cute, for sure. Because it's a cute, he's very attached to that doll. Julian is, so that is cute. We then see, again, another mini montage of Julian bathing, and Sonny basically is like, look, we can have fun still, but you gotta bathe, you gotta study, you gotta do well in school. And we are then with the delivery driver again. Oh, and he's showing him how to pee in the toilet in a urinal. Just to mention that. We're then back with Rob Schneider and Sonny, and this is the famous Hip Hop Anonymous scene where Sonny he has words on cards for Julian to read, but also for the delivery driver to read.
Because he doesn't know how to read.
And he doesn't speak English very well. So we then see Sonny and Julian telling rollerbladers to slow down in the park instead of tripping them. And we cut to Julian's school play, and Sonny and Layla are there watching him, and he does a really good job as Ben Franklin.
Yeah.
And again, the costume. If Sonny made that, very well done.
Yeah, I think it was probably... my idea was that it was probably more like the school already had the costumes and everything, because it's a little better than what... what was going on with that kangaroo costume, but...
Yeah, but I think his hair is a mop.
That's true. Yeah.
So I was like, did he make that too?
Maybe.
I don't know. If he did, well done. So after he does really well in the play, Julian does, and this is the first time you really see Sonny like, I'm so proud of what's happening. I'm very, his emotions are showing a little bit towards being with this child. Unfortunately, though, we immediately cut to Sonny and Rob Schneider and Julian playing cards, and Mr. Brooks has finally gotten to his house when he's home. He has now discovered Sonny is not Kevin. He lied, and if that's illegal. Mr. Brooks tells him, look, I have to take Julian or I have to arrest you. Either one's happening. And Sonny tries to explain to Julian at that point that he's going to have to leave. Julian's obviously very upset, and this is the moment I start to cry.
Yeah. No, this was the first movie that I ever cried in. It was this and then Saving Private Ryan. Those quite a jump, but this was the first that brought me to tears.
This part always makes me tear up because he's, begging him not to leave. And
right.
Kids don't understand, obviously, the legal issues and, like, what's going on here.
Right. But I would think that they would, try to at least break it down for the kid at least a little bit so that way he's not just taken away from this new father figure. Because as much as what everything Sonny has done is wrong, there is a relationship that's now developed, and now, just sending the kid away without any explanation, he's going to, I don't want to get too into it because it's a movie and I'm not a psychologist, but, I feel like that would create a lot of internal torment for the kid.
I will say from experience, I have taken a child from a parent. I took custody of my nephew when he was 2 away from my sister. It is that quick. You get the custody and that's it. So even at 2, he knew something was wrong. Now we got him into not a therapist because he's just too young, but it was a child advocate type
kind of
person,
a counselor type thing. Yeah,
to try to help him because he had issues based on his situation. Plus, then he was taken away from his mom. So, but I will say, legality wise, this is exactly how it would probably play out. He would just show up, take the kid. That it is what it is.
Wow.
Unfortunately, I mean, the system doesn't really care that much about the child in that aspect. They are only caring about what's legal. So, but Julian is crying and tells Sonny he won't play the kangaroo song anymore, and he just, begs him to stay, which is so sad.
Yeah.
Sonny then immediately goes to Layla and begs her to help him, and she's like, "Look, I can't. I have to go to DC, and this is why I didn't want to get involved with you. I didn't want a kid. I didn't want to deal with this." And Sonny's basically like, "Look, a kid showed up my door and I fell in love with him. So things change. So things just change in life in general."
Yeah, but I still feel like that's a lot to put on Layla as a character who really is just a third party that, she had no real part in this, and it still seems early on in there in her and Sonny's relationship. So.
Now, it would be different, I think, maybe, if she met him and that was his son. I'm a single dad, and this is, and she could make that decision.
Yeah.
But she also clearly knew a little bit of the background, because she's not surprised that the kid got taken away. So, just saying. Yeah, I agree. I don't think that's fair to put that on her. But we then cut to Sonny clearly studying law again to prepare for court. Because remember, he is actually a lawyer. So.
He's licensed. He's passed the bar to license, or he's licensed to practice it in New York.
Yeah. But you can also see at this point, he's clearly missing Julian a lot.
Yeah.
So, and again, we don't know how much time is passing. I'm going to guess court system wise, an emergency hearing, maybe 10 days.
Gotcha.
Roughly. And we do learn in the next scene that is what he's looking at. He got an emergency hearing granted. So we are in court though at this point, and his 2 friends are his lawyers, and then Layla does end up showing up, which is cute. But the judge is kind of, how many co-counsels are you going to have? Because this is a lot of people.
He's got his 2 friends, his roommate, his girlfriend.
Right.
And himself.
Well, Kevin doesn't show up till a little bit later,
that's
but
right.
It's 3 of them to start, and then Kevin shows up, so 4. Yeah, for sure. He starts calling witnesses, though. The first one's the old man from the bar, which
Mr.
maybe
Hurley
wasn't the best. Yeah, maybe wasn't the best idea. Then Steve Buscemi, who was the man experiencing homelessness, also not a great witness.
I do like his little his line where he just sees Sonny with the Egg McMuffin, because he's just rambling at this point, and he goes, if OJ can get away with murder, why can't Sonny keep his kid? That guy knows what I'm talking about. No further questions. That's so good. I love that.
It is funny. Then this is when Kevin pops up, and again, another co-counsel. He calls Corinne, though, to the stand and makes it very clear she doesn't like him. And, however, says that when she saw Sonny and Julian, he was, being a decent role model, father, whatever you want to call it. But this is the time when Sonny then makes her, on the record, mention where she worked at Hooters, which is so beside the point.
Yeah.
Stop it. Layla then calls Julian to the stand, and again, he looks scared, so Layla grabs the sunglasses from Sonny because she remembers the trick about him being scared. She starts asking him all kinds of questions, again, bawling my eyes out. After Julian is let go, Sonny then calls himself to the stand, but his dad is there in the back of the court, and he asks the judge to let his father cross-examine him. And initially the prosecutor's like, this is ridiculous, stop. And then the dad yells something like,
My son's an idiot.
Yep, my son's an idiot. He shouldn't have a child. And he's like, I withdraw my objection. Go ahead. So the dad basically is questioning him. Why you did this illegally? This is terrible things. You did all these terrible things in your life. You should not have a child. And then he yells at him. And Sonny is basically like, look, I'm scared. You're scared. You're scared for me. And this is exactly the kind of parent that I'm going to be. I know that I'm going to be good at this. I know that I'm going to be a good dad because I'm going to be the person that would die for his kid. And just like you would. Just like a dad who drove all the way from Florida or flew from Florida or however he got there. And you're here now to help me because your son's in trouble. And it makes the dad realize very quickly, might I add.
It's very 180 in terms of his point of view on this.
Yeah. That now he should have this kid because he's made this little rant and that showed me just an ounce of maturity, so now I feel like he should
Out of all the fuck-ups he's made in this entire movie. All right, well, you made one valid argument. I guess I'll change my mind on this entire situation.
Yeah. So at that point, the judge is, there's a kind of a swell in the courtroom. Everyone's calling their dad because Sonny and his dad hug, and again, tears abound. The judge is basically like, yo, you kidnapped a kid. You should be in jail, and that's exactly what I'm doing. Bailiff, remove him. And again, Kevin stands up and he says, look, as the father, I don't want to press charges. And he hasn't said anything to Corinne at this point, so her mouth's on the floor, and he's like, I'm so sorry. And this is my kid.
The way that Kevin kind of pieces it together, because when we first are introduced to Julian, he mentions that he's from Buffalo. But in the court case, he mentions that he moved to Buffalo but was born in Toronto. And so Kevin starts to piece together that he once visited Toronto, met a girl, there was a whole thing there, and so it all kind of comes together, and so he objects to Sonny being taken away. So.
And the judge says, well, pending a DNA test, fine, we'll drop all the charges. So Julian, though, heard this, and he comes out running from behind, I don't know, a door or something, and he's crying, and he wants Sonny to be his dad. And Sonny says, look, man, I can't be your dad, but I can be your friend, no matter what, because you already have a dad. Again, crying my eyes out. We then cut to, I think, the next day, and we see Kevin and Sonny kind of talking about, what he likes, what he doesn't like. Julian, I'm sorry, what he likes, doesn't like. And then as Kevin approaches him, Julian kind of looks nervous at first, but eventually him and Kevin bond, because Kevin immediately hits his head on the bench and makes Julian laugh. So, and then we see Sonny kind of walking away, and he looks sad, and we get another montage of all the stuff they have done together, and then this is when we learn it was 6 weeks. So he had only been with Sonny for 6 weeks, which isn't a long time at all. So, but either way, Sonny walks away from both of them. We then see Sonny and his friends a year later, and they're at a Hooters.
This is Sonny's birthday.
It is Sonny's birthday, and it's a surprise at Hooters. And he is now a lawyer. He's a working lawyer. And
he picked himself back up
Layla.
and is now a respectable young lawyer in the city of New York. Good for him.
Indeed.
Moving up in the world from kidnapping children.
And working at Toll Booth.
And working at Toll Booth.
Yep. We also see Layla, and they are together, and they have a baby. Mm-hmm. So he knocked her up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
If it's only been a year, she's got to be pregnant for 9 months. That baby looks
right. So they were probably all together for maybe another, like, couple months. Yeah.
Month or two. Yeah. And then she's pregnant.
Yeah.
When she didn't want kids, it's like, you don't just accidentally get
Right.
pregnant, FYI. It's a very precise process that you can avoid. Anyway, Sonny tells Corinne to go put a tank top on for old time's sake, and Julian says, "What's he talking about, Mommy?" So clearly, the year that's passed, Corinne, Kevin, and him have formed this little family, which is nice to see.
Yeah.
We then see Vanessa, Sonny's old girlfriend, pop out of nowhere, and Sonny's obviously shocked she's working there. And she said, "Well, where's Sid?" And we look over.
He's the
and
fry
we see
cook.
Sid. Yep. He works at Hooters, too. So he laughs and says, "I guess that was a 10-year plan, not a 5-year plan." And everyone kind of laughs. Julian laughs. He also says something about, "Isn't that the guy with the old balls?" Which we didn't mention in that scene, but Sonny yells that at her because he's old.
Yeah.
Everybody laughs. They all eat, and we kind of pan out, and that's the movie. Still really good.
It's still pretty good. There's a lot of things that aren't really good in terms of how misogynistic this film can be. But it was the 90s, man. Everybody was a piece of shit, and it was okay back then.
Right.
But I don't know. It was good going back to this movie because it had been a hot minute, and I really did grow up with it, watching it on VHS, if any of you Zoomers remember that.
Your cousin, who's your same age, loves this movie, too. Yeah. It reminds him of his dad to an extent. Yeah. And, you know, they watched that a lot when he was a kid, so.
Pretty good. Definitely one of the better Sandler movies that I'd say that are out there. Like I said, for me, it's like the stuff that he was kind of doing in the late 90s, real early 2000s, I really like from Sandler. Pretty much anything after that, I could live without. Uncut Gems, though, is pretty good. But
I will check that out.
Yeah.
Do you have any other fun facts?
So the delivery guy Nazo, originally that was not supposed to be as big of a role as it ended up being for Rob Schneider. Originally, the role of the delivery guy was supposed to just be a single scene, and the nationality of the character was Chinese. But Sandler really wanted Schneider to wanted to have a role in the film, and so they kind of very quickly kind of drew out more of a character and more of a storyline for Nazo as a character, implementing him a little bit more. What his ethnicity is supposed to be and how that relates to what Rob Schneider's actual ethnicity is, I don't know, but I'm sure it's something that also doesn't quite hold up.
Right.
But I don't know all about that. But yeah, those are the main things. I kind of mentioned a lot of my other fun facts already.
I don't have a lot either. Yeah. There's a lot out there, but a lot you kind of like knew if you knew the movie, so I didn't want to put that on here. You had mentioned the director having a cameo in that Columbo episode. He also has a cameo in this movie. He's the guy on the phone during Halloween when Adam Sandler breaks into his house and he's giving Julian all the CDs and stuff. That's him. That's the director.
That's funny. Yeah. I love that. That's so good.
Yeah. It's cute. There were a lot of other choices considered for Sonny, which I was actually shocked by. Bill Murray, which not that big of a surprise, but I thought in the 90s he was a little too old.
Yeah.
Jim Carrey, I could kind of see that.
Yeah.
Ben Stiller, I could also kind of see that. And Jack Nicholson, also too old.
Yeah.
All considered for parts of Sonny, which I think are weird choices.
I think this is a very fitting choice for Sandler.
Yeah,
considering
absolutely.
How he basically just plays Adam Sandler in just about every movie that he's in. So, yeah, and it's...
Good casting choice there. Staring clear. While filming The Waterboy, so that came out in 1998. That was a huge success. So they were filming this movie when that came out in the theaters. And then noticing the box office, Sony, who produced and did the production on this movie, let the production team and Adam Sandler know they had extra money about halfway through filming. So he actually expanded the scenes with Rob Schneider, Steve Buscemi to have a little bit bigger roles in the movie, as you kind of mentioned. This is Adam Sandler's most successful movie. It made over $163 million in its opening weekend.
It is not rated very well, though, from what I saw critically.
No, the critics didn't like it, but people loved it.
Yeah.
So, for sure. And this is also the last Adam Sandler comedy before he founded Happy Madison Productions as the founder and CEO. So, he did try to buy the rights to this movie to include it on the roster of Happy Madison, and Sony just didn't let it go. Obviously, it just made too much money for them. Because I don't have the numbers of what it made in like home box office and Blu-ray.
Oh, it's got to have been way more. Yeah.
Yeah, tons of money. And finally, Adam Sandler actually was crying in the movie when Julian is taken away by the social worker.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got real tears and cried.
Yeah, you're not a real human being unless you've cried during the during that scene of Big Daddy.
For sure, it's so emotional and
it is good. It does certainly have its moments. There are, as we mentioned, there's some things that don't hold up, but that I think is just because it's a product of its time, which just about every movie that we've gone over on this show is. So we can't really blame it for that too much, but
it's still funny.
It still has
some heart to it.
It's still good to go back to, especially if you did grow up on it and you can understand the humor of it a little bit better.
Well, and being a man, I think you think of that movie a little differently than like I would. So
yeah, because it's very misogynist.
No, because of the relationship between a small boy and this, again, father figure.
Yeah, for sure. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm glad we went back and watched it, though. It's always a fun time.
Me too. So, what do we got going on for next episode?
The next episode, we're doing Half Baked.
Half Baked. I think I've only seen bits and pieces. I know Dave Chappelle and Neil Brennan are in it, which I'm excited to check this out.
Yeah. A movie, again, of its time. However, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised on the characters.
Okay.
And the interaction with the characters.
Cool.
So,
well, I'm very much looking forward to that.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, very much looking forward to that. I hope everybody else is looking forward to that. So that's pretty much going to do it for this episode of the Cult Cinema Podcast. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify or Apple Music or Apple Podcast. Feel free to leave a review if you'd like, or a like, or whatever. Or just let us know what you think of the show. Let us know what movies you'd like to see us talk about here on the show. And if you feel like you want to help support us, maybe donate on Anchor. I don't really know how it's all set up, but if you want to, you can do that.
We'll figure it out if you donate.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Thank you again, everybody, for watching. We will see you in the next episode.